Good morning. My name is Gaillard. I'm the managing director and founder of Corix Partners, and we're a boutique management consulting firm based here in London, which I established about 10 years ago to help CIOs and other C-level executives with their cybersecurity strategy, organization, and governance challenges. I also animate the Security Transformation Research Foundation, and that's a think tank affiliated to Corix Partners, which is aimed at developing different narratives around cybersecurity. And in particular to help the security industry develop and face the challenges of the digital times ahead. Many thanks to all of you for being here with me. Many thanks to the Digital Leaders Week for having me this morning and allowing me to talk to you. I'm going to be exploring the implications of the COVID crisis into cybersecurity budgeting for the year ahead and the cycle ahead for CIOs and CEOs. Before I get started, a few house rules. This session is pre-recorded. You can interact with me through the chat line at the bottom of the video screen on the website, as I've been told by the Digital Leaders organizers. Feel free to do that. I will do my best to answer your questions at the end of the session if I can. Otherwise, you will have my details at the end of the session as well. Feel free to reach out if you have any concerns, any questions, anything you want to discuss, to exchange. For me, this is about developing interesting ideas and helping the security industry, the tech industry at large, move forward. I'm going to start sharing a few slides with you just to help us go through the session this morning. First of all, I want to set the scene a little bit in relation to the situation in which the COVID crisis has found the cybersecurity industry. I don't need to tell you that cybersecurity leadership roles have not been in existence forever. They started to emerge around 20 years ago. For me, I see 2 decades of very contrasted evolution around cybersecurity, and I'm still coming across very significant maturity issues in many organizations, larger and smaller. The Security Transformation Research Foundation ran a very interesting piece of research last year, essentially analyzing the semantic content of the last 20 global information security surveys from EY. You would have come across those in the past. Every big 4 firm is producing one every year, pretty much. EY is interesting because they've been doing this since 1998, so they truly offer us an historical perspective on the evolution of the cybersecurity industry. So we've analyzed the content of their reports, the language, really, the semantic content, not so much the data, not so much the results, but the language used, the words being used to talk about cybersecurity. And looking at the usage of certain words, the frequencies of certain words, the presence or the absence of keyword markers, we can see very clearly 2 decades emerging. The first decade of this century is very much about risk and compliance. And that's definitely something I can relate with. I was the chief security officer for Rabobank International from 2000 to 2009, and that was very much the backdrop of my work. So that's definitely something I can relate with. From 2010 onwards, as we move into the second decade of the century, we start to see a very significant language shift. The risk and compliance language is effectively replaced by threats, incidents, and the language of data breaches. And that's, of course, the direct consequence of the avalanche of cybersecurity incidents we've been seeing over the past 10 years. And it does reflect what I'm hearing from CISOs in particular. Many CISOs have been completely incapable of moving out of firefighting, and that has indeed preventing them from building many cybersecurity structures they should have been building. And little by little, one incident after another, one breach after another, in the boardroom, the penny is dropping around cyber attacks. And for many C-level execs, this is increasingly something which is regarded as a matter of when, not if. But when you say that, you create very different dynamics around cybersecurity. All of a sudden, it's not about risk anymore. Risk is about uncertainty. When you say when, not if, you enter the realm of certainty. And from the C-suite perspective, it becomes a matter of execution. It becomes a matter of protection, often in exchange of very significant investments, at least pre-COVID. But it does put CIOs and CISOs under tremendous pressure, because now this is about delivering, this is about executing, this is about protecting. Okay. And to me, this is very much the context in which the COVID crisis has found the cybersecurity industry. I don't need to tell you that the COVID crisis is a crisis of unprecedented proportion. We all know that. We've been living through it for the best part of the year. What is clear to me is that it certainly has not pushed security and privacy off the radar. First of all, we have seen an acceleration of cyber attacks, I mean, phishing attacks or ransomware attacks. But if you look at the public debate in particular around the introduction of tracing apps, for example, in many Western European countries, you can see that privacy, data privacy, has certainly not been pushed off the radar either. You know, there was a very, very vivid and interesting debate in many countries around the data being collected, whether it's stored locally, whether it's stored centrally, the way it is protected. So definitely the COVID crisis has not pushed security and privacy off the radar, far from it, but it does affect industries in a very different manner. You know, from some sectors of the tech world, which are genuinely booming, to some sectors of the hospitality or travel industry, which are facing near complete collapse. Still, what I'm hearing mostly at the moment from C-level execs, it's an overwhelming sense of caution in the face of exceptional uncertainty. We're hearing from a number of media sources that cybersecurity spending may be on the rise. I take this with a pinch of salt. I am getting a very, very different and more contrasted view on the situation, and I'm starting to get the sense that it could be a little bit of wishful thinking from some sectors of the tech world. But we will see. Regardless, in all cases, you know, I wanted to set the scene before I get onto my three golden rules, as I've been calling them, because to me this is the context very much in which, you know, CEOs and CIOs are going to have to make cybersecurity budgeting decisions ahead of the next year or the next cycle. So my first rule when I talk to CIOs and CEOs is very much to think carefully before making drastic cuts around cybersecurity. Even if you're facing dire financial circumstances, be careful. Be careful. Cutting across the board in cybersecurity often doesn't make sense. Please start by looking carefully at your cybersecurity maturity. Look at it without complacency. Step out of denial. Look at where you are. Look at the level of digital dependency the COVID crisis has brought upon you. Look at the bigger picture. You're going to hear me say that time and time again throughout this session. I will definitely come back to it in the end. You know, this is not about buying more tech. There is no tech product which can buy you cyber resilience. Cyber resilience can only come from, you know, the application of protective measures at a number of layers across your organization. Please look at that bigger picture. Do not ignore your degree of dependency on third parties, whether they are business partners or cloud service providers. Look at the implied degree of trust you are placing on the solidity of their defenses. And look, frankly, at how much you know or don't know about what they are actually doing to protect you, your business, your data, your clients, your processes. So very much look at the situation without complacency, look at it in the face, step out of denial. And if you don't think you're in a good place on cybersecurity, now is not the time to cut security spending to the ground. So whatever decision you need to make ahead of the next year or the next cycle in terms of cybersecurity budgeting, please make it on the basis of that sort of self-examination. And that's very much the first rule I tend to give to CEOs and CIOs around that. My second rule is very much to focus on the protection of your key assets. Now, I can hear some of you saying, well, you know, this is common sense and it should always have been the case. Yes, maybe, but more than ever, this is essential. Now is not the time to try to solve all the problems you may have around cybersecurity. Focus on your key assets. Do you know where they are? If you don't know, go and find out and focus on those. Whatever they might be, systems, of course, but not just systems, business processes, business unit, geographies. Go and find out if you don't know where they are and focus on those. Focus on clear, simple, tangible, affordable, measurable tasks with a short to mid-term horizon. Now is not the time for multi-year, multi-million projects. Now is not the time to try to convince the board to sign off on an 8-digit top to bottom re-engineering of your entire cybersecurity practice. You will damage your credibility if you try. And frankly, the general economic uncertainty is probably likely to affect it or kill it altogether. So keep things simple, keep things simple, keep things simple. Tangible, affordable, measurable, and nothing without a short to mid-term horizon, because very honestly, nobody can look further at the minute. And that takes me on to my third rule, which is probably the most important from my perspective, and it is to focus on delivery and what you can deliver. I'm going to say this again, this is not the time to look for silver bullets around cybersecurity. There are none. Ignore the sirens of the tech industry. This is not about buying more tech. This is not about buying another tech layer, which will make all your problems disappear. Large organizations on average use 20 different security tools already, according to a piece of research from Cisco published at the beginning of the year. Now is not the time to buy more tech. Focus on areas where you have the skills to deliver. Focus on what you can execute, and be safe in the knowledge that it's only the actual implementation of protective measures across the real breadth and depth of the enterprise which will protect you, not the snake oil of tech vendors and their false promises. So keep things simple, focus on what you have the skills to deliver, focus on what you can execute. Now is not the time for large-scale multi-million projects, as I said before. Now is not the time either to push your next pet project, frankly. You also need to understand the complexity of what you're trying to achieve and the complexity your team and your organization can absorb. Security initiatives are not vertical. You will need the assistance from stakeholders across the firm to deliver in almost any cybersecurity initiative of any scale. So consider carefully the dependencies between the security task you're undertaking and the cross-silo implication. And please build the governance model you will need from the start to make sure the priorities are clear for all the stakeholders you will need to deliver. Most cybersecurity initiatives I come across fail at that hurdle. They fail to establish that governance layer. They fail to get priorities right across silos. This is difficult. This is difficult because many large organizations work in silos fundamentally, and cybersecurity cuts across because it's fundamentally a transversal matter. So yes, it's hard, but put it in place from the start, and it will be an important success factor going forward. And again, I've said it many times already, but this is not just about tech. This is not about just buying another layer of tech product. There is no tech silver bullet out there which will buy you cyber resilience. Cyber resilience can only come from the concerted action at people, process, and technology level, and the real effective and efficient application of protective measures at people, process, and technology level. So in summary, think carefully, before making drastic cuts from the start. Look without complacency at your level of cybersecurity maturity. Look at your cybersecurity posture, look at your dependency on third parties, step out of denial, look at the situation in the face, and edit any decision you make around cybersecurity budgeting in relation to the next year or the next cycle ahead. Make sure you make it in the context of that type of self-examination to start with. Focus on your key assets. If you don't know where they are, go and find out. Focus on clear, simple, tangible, affordable, measurable tasks with a short to mid-term horizon, because nobody can look much further. And focus on execution. Focus on things you can deliver on the basis of the skills you have. Get the priorities set with all stakeholders. Understand the dependencies. You're going to bring onto stakeholders. Make sure you have the governance layer in place to address priorities across silos. Okay, and fundamentally, you've heard me say it many times already this morning. I say it one more time: there is no silver bullet out there, and this is not about just buying another tech product. Okay, There is no tech silver bullet that will buy you cyber resilience, now or never. Cyber resilience will come through the layered application of protective measures across the enterprise at people, process, and technology level. That's the only way it can work. I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to thank you for listening to me. I leave you with my details on the screen. As I said at the start, please be in touch if there is anything you want to discuss. If I've rattled your cage, or if there are just ideas you want to bounce or things you want to explore, by all means, feel free to reach out. That's what it's all about. It's about exchanging. It's about building innovative ideas to help the tech and the security industry move forward. So please, by all means, be in touch. I thank you again, all of you. Thank Digital Leaders as well for having me here with you this morning. I wish you all a very good rest of the day and a very good rest of the Digital Leaders Week. Thank you very much, you all.